event. This place we're at, it is the Pedua Sea Resort, and everything has been provided to make our stay here warm, comfortable, and safe. If you need to use the restroom, please make your way through the back. We have our ushers who will guide you. And any other thing we can do to make your stay here warm and comfortable, please, we're yours to command. While we wait, do we have some videos? Okay, so we shall acquaint ourselves with some little information on this great African asset, TradeMark East Africa, soon to be TradeMark Africa. On behalf of the organizers, I welcome one and all. Thank you. Ade. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let's receive the gifts of the occasion. The Secretary General of AFTA in the company of the Caretaker Minister for Trade and Industry of the Republic of Ghana. For all their efforts for the continent and the nation, I thought a round of applause. Oh, come on, please. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please lend your attention to the screen for an introductory video. Thank you. was just told right now.
My name is Ahmed Farah, Country Director. As a country that hosts TradeMark's headquarters, Kenya has been honored to witness firsthand communities prosper through trade, and we're excited to connect to more countries and scale up.
I am Hannah Ngoge, Program Manager, Infrastructure. The Port of Mombasa remains an important gateway in the region, serving over 250 million people. TradeMark East Africa has invested heavily to support efficiency drivers to ports over the last decade. However, there is more work to do in more ports across the continent as TradeMark spread its wings.
For a program which was advertised for 6:30 and beginning at 7:17, we can only blame it on COVID, Russia, Ukraine. But I promise you that if you give me 1.5 hours of your time, it will be worth your while. A wonderful evening to you all, and welcome to the Kwapim Hills right here in the eastern region of Ghana, where this day we meet as sons and daughters, friends of Africa, to celebrate yet another milestone. It is the launch of TradeMark Africa, formerly TradeMark East Africa. My name is Jerry Ajololo, and on behalf of the board chair and the CEO of TradeMark East Africa, soon to be called TradeMark Africa, I welcome you ever so warmly. Time is fast spent, and so we shall zoom straight into the program for today. But allow me to acknowledge with gratitude some great stakeholders who have joined us to make this day all the more memorable. We're joined by the Secretary General of the AFCFTA. Please make welcome His Excellency Wamkele Mene. We're joined by Ghana's Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, who is the Caretaker Minister for Trade and Industry, the Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, MP. Thank you. We make welcome the High Commissioner of Kenya to Ghana, His Excellency Elifas M. Barin. Thank you very much. Let's make welcome the High Commissioner of the Republic of South Africa to Ghana, Her Excellency Grace Janet Mason. Thank you. In her company is the Minister for Trade for South Africa, the Honorable Fikile Majola. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's welcome Ghana's Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, the Honorable Herbert Krapper. We're delighted to receive the Director for Trade Policy Division of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, Dr. Stephen Karenji. Thank you. Let's make welcome the Head of the National After Coordination Office, Ghana, Dr. Farid Arthur. The CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Mr. Yofi Grant, joins us. Together with the board chair of the center, Mr. Alex Tade. The Deputy CEO of the National Youth Authority of Ghana, Mrs. Akosia Menu. And the CEO of the Dubai Chamber and the UAE Trade Center, Mr. Walid Hareb El Falhani, together with the Executive Director at the UAE Trade Center, Mr. Naber Al Nandi. A round of applause for them too. It's a tall list of acknowledgements, but allow me to defer and do them intermittently in the course of today's event. To welcome us, it's my pleasure to invite up here the head of the National After Coordination Office. Please make welcome Dr. Farid Kwesi Arthur. He's done nothing wrong. Please, let it be warm.
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and Acting Minister for Trade and Industry, Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapo, MP, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General, After Secretariat, His Excellency Mr. Erastus Mwencha, Chair for TradeMark Africa, Honorable Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, the Honorable Herbert Krapper, Mr. David Beer, CEO for TradeMark Africa, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the Peduasi Valley Resort for the signing of the MOU between Ghana and the TradeMark Africa. The collaboration started somewhere in December 2021 on the sidelines of a conference that was led by the Honorable Minister Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. And after that, the first action that we took was to undertake a corridor assessment from Abidjan to Lagos. Several other collaborations took place, and it became obvious that in order for us to strengthen the relationships, TradeMark Africa, TradeMark East Africa needed to seriously consider rebranding itself and moving into the West African corridor. And so as part of our discussions, the Ministry of Trade supported and facilitated the rebranding of TradeMark East Africa into what is now TradeMark Africa, to show the expanded scope of their mandate. We have had several engagements under the leadership of the Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister Herbert Krapper, and the MOU that today we sign has been carefully gone through by both parties. And so today we meet here to actually put in place the evidential cornerstone of that relationship, so that now we know that Ghana and TradeMark Africa, in collaboration with the AFCFTA Secretariat, have signed this agreement to be able to perform within the West Africa. We are also honored that TradeMark Africa has indicated that they would want to use Ghana as their West African headquarters. And so that is a plus for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, because the time is gone, I want to just take this opportunity to say welcome to the Peduasi Valley Resort in the hills of the Eburi Mountains, not too far from Accra. Unfortunately, it's too late, so you cannot enjoy the scenery around. But without much ado, I'd like to thank all of you once more, and then to invite us to move to the next sessions of the program. Thank you.
Dr. Farid Arthur, we thank you for those warm words of welcome. It's been 12 years of serving Africa, ladies and gentlemen, by promoting prosperity through trade. Why Ghana? Why now? Well, two men stand accused, and they'll be giving their defense as to why this has come at this time. Please welcome the TradeMark Africa Board Chair, Ambassador Erastus Mwencha, for his remarks. I beg your pardon, the CEO is supposed to come first. Please welcome Mr. David Beer.
Thank you. Many apologies. You will have to wait a couple of minutes before you get the board chair. I fear I'm not a great substitute for him, but he will be coming soon. Our special guest, Your Excellency, Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat, and our national host, Honourable Minister of Lands and Resources and Caretaker Minister of Trade and Industry, Honourable Jinapo. Our High Commissioners, Your Excellencies from South Africa and Kenya, and Honourable Ministers from South Africa and Ghana, distinguished guests, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to join you today for this very auspicious occasion as we mark the launch of TradeMark Africa here in the West. I thank you very much for coming and for taking the time, especially late on a Friday evening, and your presence here means very much to us. Ladies and gentlemen, TradeMark was established 12 years ago with the sole aim of growing prosperity in the continent through trade. Our conviction was and remains that when trade thrives, so do communities and countries, generating jobs and incomes for ordinary people, greater profits for business, and more revenue for governments. For Africa to exploit her great potential and to drive ever greater trade volumes within the continent and with the rest of the globe, we must, however, be honest about and address the very real challenges that make trade difficult. There is no silver bullet, and we must tackle the full range of barriers to trade, including inadequate transport infrastructure, processes that remain inefficient, bureaucracy that does not understand the private sector as a customer to serve, good policies and regimes that are simply not implemented, and standards that businesses find difficult to meet and agencies difficult to certify. Ultimately, this makes exports uncompetitive and discourages trade by making it unprofitable for one country to sell her goods to near neighbours or to global markets, which drives up prices for consumers and reduces incomes. Ladies and gentlemen, the good news is that these problems are all eminently solvable. And TradeMark is grateful that our integrated model of focusing on entire trade corridors and delivering complete packages of interventions has unlocked multiple trade challenges in the East and the Horn of Africa so far. We've seen interventions along the northern corridor that connects Mombasa to Bujumbura, for example, drastically reduce the time and cost to transport cargo. At the port of Mombasa, we have halved the dwell times from 8 to 4 days and halved the cost of transporting a container from Mombasa to Kampala. The 15 one-stop border posts that we have helped put in place have reduced the time taken for cargo to cross borders by an average of 70%. And a suite of tech innovations are enabling government agencies to regulate trade seamlessly and process licenses at the touch of a button. But we believe the time is now ripe for West Africa to make major further strides in trade facilitation, building on the strong work and high-quality instruments put in place by the regional economic communities, not least ECOWAS, and in particular, the deep integration that the African Continental Free Trade Agreement will be pushing right across Africa under the leadership of His Excellency. The AFCFTA is promising to open wide borders across the continent and to significantly increase markets for West African exporters. And we see serious potential now for West Africa. The GDP of ECOWAS is $726 billion, yet intra-regional trade is only 5% of total trade. And we know this is partly driven by the very long waits at borders and the very high transport costs per kilometre. Tackling these, especially along the corridor from Abidjan to Lagos, will have a significant impact on national economies. And that is why we are now launching our expansion in Ghana today. We believe that as one of the world's leading aid for trade organisations, we can help deliver the goals that partner governments, regional economic communities, the AFCFTA, businesses and citizens all share. And this is an important point. Perhaps the reason that this model has worked so well is our collective, firm commitment to partnership amongst all the stakeholders. We believe in sitting down together, hearing honest views on what is really hindering trade, jointly crafting solutions, and jointly implementing what we have agreed. And it really matters that governments define and lead trade facilitation priorities, that these are influenced by businesses and traders, and that they reflect and are reflected in regional and continental agreements. This is the only way to create a sustainable approach. So as I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to leave us with an aspiration, one that I know if we work together is well within our reach. Imagine with me for a minute if it would take only 1 day to deliver a container from Lagos to Abidjan. Imagine if it would cost only half of what it does today to do so. Imagine if traders could lodge all their paperwork along the whole corridor once only. And if every agency receives and processes these documents electronically and in advance. Imagine if traders pay their fees electronically and never have to visit an office. Imagine if customs revenue went up by, say, 1/3 for every government across the region. and if a transporter could track their cargo online at every step of the journey. And then imagine what all that would do to trade volumes across these corridors. The future for trade in West Africa is on our doorstep, and for the whole of Africa, and we're excited to be a part of it. With that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite our board chair, Ambassador Erastus Mwencha, to formally introduce the launch of TradeMark Africa. As a former Secretary General of COMESA and Deputy Chair of the African Union Commission, I believe he knows more than many of us here the power of continental, regional and national collaboration to drive real gains in trade. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, David, and good evening. Our chief guest, Secretary General, my brother, Meme Wamkele, the Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, who is also Caretaker Minister for Trade and Industry, Honorable Cabinet Ministers who are here, Your Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassadors present, may I also recognize the various dignitaries that have come, particularly development partners that are with us here tonight, and simply say, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be at this event, and I'm deeply humbled by the audience assembled here tonight. Being a Friday night and having had a really long week, and a great hospitality that we have also enjoyed here in Accra since we arrived. Coming back here has reminded me of how beautiful this land and the people are. Ghana, the land of Kwame Nkrumah, the founding father of AU, now Africa Union, who advocated for one Africa, whose cornerstone tonight we are watching, because we have also seen the Africa Continental Free Trade Area talking of one market, which was Kwame's dream. I've also enjoyed many conversations that we have had on how to improve our great continent and tap into vast potential. As the old proverb of this region goes, when you are sitting in your house, you don't learn anything. You must get out to learn. And already, we are learning many, many good lessons. Africa has often been referred to as a sleeping giant due to its massive potential, which has not been fully exploited. Personally, having worked with multilateral trade circles for most of my adult life, and having often wrestled with the question of how trade and integration can be enhanced within the continent, I feel that now we are closer to that dream than when we first began. And if I may add a personal note to this aspect, I'm so delighted to be in the company of some of the luminaries that were part of establishing the foundations of the Continental Free Trade Area. I have in mind Stephen Karingi, who is here in this hall. Atta Mensa, I haven't seen him, but I knew he was going to be here. And Farid Atta. But I must also, if you allow me to add here, that unfortunately, he is not here with us tonight, but he was also part of that team that worked on the foundations of the Continental Free Trade Area, and that is Alan Kerematin, the minister, the former minister, who's just left office. But also Mukisa Mukitui, minister, who was then Minister of Trade and Industry, Kenya. At that time, when we started putting together the foundations and going to our leaders, many people literally dismissed us, but many also saw the future. And I'm happy to see the progress that the CFT has made, and I'm so encouraged because the future looks very promising. But also in my travels around the continent, in West, in East, North, and South, there is a growing palpable determination and optimism, especially among the youth, that there is no reason why we cannot collaborate and trade more and develop the continent in a much faster way. We, the mature generation, thus owe it to them to make it a reality in our lifetime. This anticipation makes me happy and resonates well with the mandate and the model of the TradeMark Africa. Our CEO has well articulated some of the attributes of that mandate. Our organization is premised on the great possibilities that trade and its delivering across the continent. In countries where we operate, we continue to see firsthand the impact of efficient trade delivers in lives and producers. Traders, communities, and ultimately nations. When you cut by half the time it takes to transport goods along a certain corridor, trade flourishes. Business makes better returns. Consumers enjoy quality and competitive priced goods. Jobs are created. Livelihoods are sustained, and economies are strengthened. Ladies and gentlemen, with the advent of the African Continental Free Trade Area now, we are very pleased that the Secretary General would find time to be with us here tonight. The time is ripe for us to begin work that will modernize our fiscal and digital corridors and harmonize our trade systems, also here in West Africa. And actually the Master of Ceremony did challenge us why it has taken us so long to be here. But I can only tell you, better late than never, but eventually we're here. I hence look forward to an Africa where in the East we can enjoy products that come from the West, but also enjoy in the West products that come from the East. I must say this morning, taking my tea in the hotel in Accra, I felt that I should have carried some Kenyan tea, because that is really where the tea is. And that is just one product that I think you can be sure that you can start with. And I'm challenging High Commissioner that we start that business here. Oh, fantastic. I should have then asked for it. They didn't serve it to me. With partnerships, the sky is the limit, and the benefits are immense. As I draw to a close, let me paint for you a picture of what dismantling trade barriers can achieve for us. In 2017, the FCDO commissioned a study on our work in East Africa. The results were both revealing and uplifting. Between 2010 and 2017, the TradeMark programs that led to annual cost of savings of US dollars 110 million and increased exports by 549 million and imports by 145 million. This is additional trade and of course savings, while time savings led to an additional 102 million in exports. This is only for a period of 7 years and a very short corridor. Looking at the size of most of West African economy, I'm sure that the story here would be even more beautiful. So I call on us to collaborate and dream big as TMACO has challenged us. The nature and trade facilitation work we are discussing, be it improving trade corridors, modernizing border crossings, automating trade processes, harmonizing trade policies, effecting international payment gateways, tend to be multilateral in nature and requiring strong partnerships. In conclusion, let me also mention that TradeMark Africa offers a great and unique trade facilitation model as a single intermediary between donors and various government agencies and regional bodies. This creates great efficiencies. I'm thus glad to see most of our donors here represented and look forward to even deeper collaboration as we commence work here in West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, with those remarks, it's now my singular honor to invite our chief guest, the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretary General, His Excellency Meme Wamkele, to launch the Continental, that is the TradeMark Africa. My brother, Meme.
We have a video first.
Okay, thank you.
A round of applause.
A new era is dawning for Africa.
A dawn in which trade will play a key part
in creating wealth and opportunity for the continents.
The AfCFTA trade deal is making this be within bounds of possibility.
Traders in Kenya have started exporting to Ghana and soon to the rest of Africa.
Those in Rwanda will soon trade with those in Benin.
Burundi is keen to trade with Southern Africa and the world.
Tanzania is ready to deepen its trade relations with the Eastern Africa, the Horn of Africa and beyond.
Tumejiandaa kuwa chachu ya maendeleo ya kibiashara baina ya nchi za Afrika, lakini pia baina ya nchi za Afrika na dunia kwa ujumla.
But to do this, we must ensure our goods meet international standards and health measures to access these markets.
We must build efficient transport systems and trade corridors that link up markets and reduce time and cost to trade.
Our ports need to be more efficient.
And so should our transport corridors. We must make them green and sustainable.
As we pursue borderless trade, we need to harmonize our trade regimes.
Women and youth must not be left behind.
Also, we must work closely with all actors in public and private sector, not forgetting citizens for true success.
In positioning Africa as a pioneer in sustainable and inclusive growth to bring prosperity for all Africans.
And that is our vision as we turn to a new chapter, to TradeMark Africa.
And now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the new identity of TradeMark East Africa. previous core operational area of East Africa and the Horn to also support countries in West and Southern Africa. TradeMark Africa now has a presence in 14 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Somaliland, Djibouti, Malawi, Zambia, Mozambique, and finally in Ghana, at the center of the earth, the heartbeat of Pan-Africanism and home to the largest continental free trade area in the world. Put your hands together. Humbly, I invite the caretaker minister for Trade and Industry of the Republic of Ghana, in the company of the Secretary General of the AFCFTA. I invite also the TradeMark Africa Board Chair and the TradeMark Africa CEO, and last but certainly not the least, the head of the National AFTA Coordinating Office. A round of applause as the official party come up. Today is not for lunch, today is for trade.
Well, we didn't get instructions about what we're supposed to do. So we will be as surprised as you are when we pull this button. But I'm hoping that it marks the beginning of the presence of TradeMark Africa in West Africa to service the sub-region. So the Honorable Minister and I will pull this lever, and then we shall see what happens.
And as they pull, we pronounce the letters of Africa. Are we ready? So let's go. A, F, R, I, C, A. Put your hands together for a new Africa powered by TradeMark Africa. I shall invite to join the official party all members of the diplomatic corps. Please remain with us. Let me invite all members of the diplomatic corps and ministers of state of various countries here in presence. A round of applause as they come up. It's a sign of good things to come for the continent. With joy, let's receive a former Prime Minister of the Republic of Guinea, His Excellency Cellou Dalein Diallo. Respectfully, I invite you to please join. Your Excellency, please. The second photo will be with all heads of investment promotion agencies and trade facilitation organizations. That will be the final photo. Yes, please. Ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, thank you very much. Yes, please. All ministers and diplomats, thank you very much. Let's have the official party together with all the IPAs and trade facilitation entities. I think this is where we need some family planning. And with one happy cheer, we say hip, hip. A round of applause as they take their seats. Thank you very much. Amazing takeaways from the CEO and the board chair. There is no silver bullet to tackle the full range of barriers to trade. We must tackle them head on. And with partnerships, the benefits are certainly immense. Thank you very much for lending us your warm thoughts. We now move straight to the signing ceremony. A memorandum of understanding is signed this day to collaborate on improving Ghana's trade infrastructure and environment as part of government's effort at enhancing trade competitiveness within the framework of the National AFTA Policy Framework and Action Plan. Would you please make welcome to sign the board chair of TradeMark Africa, Ambassador Erastus Mwencha, together with the caretaker minister, I beg your pardon, for Trade and Industry of the Republic of Ghana, the Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, MP. In witness thereof, the Secretary General and the caretaker minister witnessing, while the Deputy Minister and the board chair sign the MOU. The Ministry of Trade and Industry, acting through the National AFTA Coordinating Office and the just rebranded Trade Africa, by this MOU, affirm their commitment and determination to improving trade-related infrastructure and environment as part of efforts to enhance the performance of the Abidjan-Lagos corridor to support intra-African trade as envisioned by the AFTA agreement. This MOU represents official start of TMA's operations in Ghana and the next logical step as the government of Ghana and TMA now work to reduce costs and time it takes to trade across borders in Ghana. We say congratulations to both parties, and may the dividends of this MOU and this partnership be evident for all to see. There will be many more photographs at the end of this event. For now, it falls to the caretaker minister for Trade and Industry of the Republic to render his remarks. Please welcome the Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, MP.
Mr. Secretary General, Board Chairman of the TradeMark Africa, and former Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency, the former Prime Minister of Guinea, Ghana's Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Chief Executive Officer of TradeMark Africa, Chief Executive Officers of Ghana's investment promotion agencies and authorities, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. For the past 2 days, through the Africa Prosperity Dialogue, we have been engaging to develop solutions to move the Africa Continental Free Trade Area AFTA from ambition to action. And there could not have been a more appropriate occasion to sign this memorandum of understanding than this evening. I say so because, ladies and gentlemen, this MOU, which we have just signed, captures the vision of African leaders and the aspirations of our citizens for the transformation of our continent as expressed in the African Union's Agenda 2063. And that is to unleash prosperity to the long-suffering peoples of Africa. Ghana is fully committed to empowering her citizens and the private sector to harness the benefits of intra-African trade and investment. Our strategic goal is to become Africa's financial, commercial, and services capital, as well as a hub for trade and investment in the sub-region. This, however, cannot be achieved in isolation. This therefore requires mutually beneficial cooperation to improve trade facilitation and custom clearance of goods and people through our various ports and land borders. While each government in the region has implemented important initiatives to advance this course, TradeMark Africa's initiative is uniquely placed to ensure better custom cooperation and facilitation of trade, especially across our most important trade corridors, including the Abidjan and Lagos corridor. In 2020, under the distinguished leadership of the President of the Republic of my country, Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ghana successfully deployed an end-to-end trade facilitations and customs management system called the Integrated Custom Management System, INCOMS. This has significantly reduced customs clearing time, improved revenue mobilization, and reduced the turnaround time for obtaining permits, licenses, and certificates needed for trade. The greatest challenge, however, remains how to ease the burden of cross-border trading on our land borders, especially for micro and small enterprises. It is therefore necessary to establish functional joint border posts that bridge the language barrier between Anglophone Ghana and our Francophone neighbors. This is the surest means our citizens and small businesses can successfully share in the benefits of the AFTA. Distinguished guests, AFTA places a historic responsibility on our respective governments to make this happen without further delay, especially now that we have technical and funding support to implement our joint border post project. This will truly be an example of moving AFTA from ambition to action. Ghana is strategically located on the Gulf of Guinea with two renowned seaports at Tema and Takoradi and over 30 land borders linking Ghana to our neighboring countries. They include major transit points for goods and the movement of people, such as Elubo-Nua border between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, Paga-Dakola border between Ghana and Burkina Faso, and Akanu and Nuape border between Ghana and Togo. The Elubu to Akanu border on the Abidjan-Lagos corridor is one of the busiest corridors on the continent and connects 5 member states of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, namely Ghana, Togo, Ivory Coast, Benin, and Nigeria. Breaking trade barriers on this corridor is therefore crucial to the success of the AFTA, and it is refreshing that this corridor is TradeMark Africa's initial focus. The government of Ghana, through the Ministry of Trade and Industry, where I am honored to be the caretaker minister, is fully committed, working with TradeMark Africa to deploy solutions on this corridor, particularly to transform the Akanu-Nuepe joint border post into a modern trade facilitation center. We will also continue to engage the governments of the republics of Togo and Cote d'Ivoire, the AFTA Secretariat, under the tireless leadership of its Secretary General, Wamkele Mene, and the ECOWAS Commission to ensure the project is supported and replicated across the region. Secretary General, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot realize the full potential of AFTA without efficient and hassle-free cross-border trading. And tonight, we signify our unwavering commitment to make this a reality. Secretary General, it would be remiss on my part not to pay tribute highly to the outgone Minister of Trade and Industry, my predecessor, the Honorable Alan John Kojo Chirimantin, for his extraordinary and tireless contribution to the realization of tonight's feat. We salute him. Let us all roll up our sleeves and get to work for the prosperity of the African peoples and generations to come through intercontinental trade. This is Africa's moment of glory, and let's seize it. I thank you for your attention.
Africa's moment of glory, and certainly we shall seize it. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, a round of applause for the Caretaker Minister for Trade and Industry. Leading us to this new prosperity is the fearless and ever-resourceful Secretary General of the AFCFTA. Would you please welcome a man in whom I'm well pleased, His Excellency Wamkele Mene.
Thank you. I am trying to shake your hand. You left me hanging. Thank you very much. He left me hanging. Thank you very much, Program Director, Honorable Minister Samuel Abu Jinapo, the Caretaker Minister for Trade and Industry, Honorable Ministers that are here this evening, Deputy Ministers that are here, as of Trade, adopted the roadmap for establishing a continental free trade area in Africa. The roadmap required that Africa is to become a continental free trade area by 2017. We were off by about 2 years. At that time in 2010, when the ministers adopted that roadmap, I did not know that I would be the Secretary General charged with implementing that vision, which was expressed in the Boosting Intra-Africa Trade Action Plan and other documents, very important instruments of the African Union, the Abuja Treaty, the Lagos Plan of Action, and of course, as I mentioned yesterday, May 1963, the establishment of the Organization of African Unity. And so Ambassador Mwencha, former Minister of Trade of Ghana, Honorable Minister Thierry Martin, former Secretary General of the UN Conference on Trade and Development, Honorable Kitui, and many others on whose shoulders we stand today, because they were the intellectual pioneers of this continental free trade area. And so when we talk about the AFCFTA having 45 countries today that have ratified the agreement, in other words, 45 countries who have committed to the trade liberalization objectives that are set out in the agreement, it is not because other than the efforts of those on whose shoulders we stand. And so I want to salute you, Your Excellency Balozi Mwencha, for your tireless efforts. Former Minister Thierry Martin, former Secretary General Musia Kitui, and many others who believed in this vision of an integrated continent. I visited the port of Mombasa about 1.5 years ago, and the reason this launch is so critical today is because of the lessons that I observed at the port of Mombasa, lessons which can be applied throughout the entire continent. The distance between the port of Mombasa and Kampala is about 1,600 kilometers. I was told that 15 years ago, before TradeMark East Africa made specific interventions for trade facilitation, transit of goods and customs procedures, the goods to transit from Port of Mombasa to Kampala used to take between 12 and 15 days and 28 stamps. Today, it takes 1 stamp and less than 3 days for goods to transit from the Port of Mombasa to Kampala. And so when the CEO talks about the possibility of goods transiting from Abidjan to Lagos in 1 day, it is actually within reach. It is certainly possible for us to see that ambition become a reality. What is even more gratifying for me is that actually these innovations that have enabled the East African community to be globally competitive in transit and trade facilitation are actually African. They are here on the African continent. So to achieve success and competitiveness, we don't need to look far. We simply need to look at what it is that we as Africans have already achieved on our continent. And so I am very, very happy that TradeMark Africa will be here in Accra to complement the efforts of the AFCFTA Secretariat, to complement the efforts of ECOWAS, who have started work on this very, very critical lifeblood of West Africa's economic activity. Over 70% of trade in this region is conducted through this corridor, Abidjan, Lagos. And in fact, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, the countries in the region that are landlocked rely on the competitiveness of this trade corridor and the ability of this trade corridor to facilitate movement of goods to their countries, to these countries that are landlocked. And so the work ahead of us will appear to be daunting and challenging. It takes roughly 15 days for goods to transit from Abidjan to Lagos, 37 official checkpoints along the way. Clearly, our region is not as competitive as it should be, and so we have committed as a secretariat that we will work with the governments in this corridor. We have already established and agreed on a roadmap that will enable us to make specific interventions, starting with Ghana and Togo, deploying digital technologies for efficiency of transit, ensuring that the harmonized rules of trade that have been agreed to in the AFCFTA, that they are actually implemented. It's not going to happen overnight, but we know from the experience of the East African community that it's possible. We know from the experience of the Southern African Development Community that it's possible. From the north part of Zambia, the Copper Belt, to Durban in South Africa, the goods that transit from the northern part of Zambia to the port of Durban, a distance that traverses 3 countries, it takes less than 24 hours for the goods to reach the port. So we have pockets of success on our continent. What has been missing is an integrated approach to connect West Africa with East Africa, Central Africa, Southern Africa, and this is the mandate of the AFCFTA, working with the regional economic communities that are already existing. So we shall take a corridor-by-corridor approach to tackle this challenge of lack of integration of our trade corridors. The corridor from Yaoundé to Bangui, the northern corridor. All of these corridors will contribute, when they are integrated, they will contribute to significantly boosting intra-Africa trade. So that the target that we've set ourselves of boosting intra-Africa trade by the year 2035, that target actually becomes a reality, and the competitiveness of all our corridors is enhanced. Not competition amongst our corridors or between our corridors, but to improve the collective competitiveness of our corridors. This will enable trade, real trade, to happen, because all of us know that the drivers of Africa's economy are small, medium enterprises, smallholder traders, smallholder farmers. These are the drivers of Africa's economy, particularly in the border communities where we see women transiting their goods across borders. And with the programs and initiatives that TradeMark Africa, the innovations that they introduced in East Africa and other parts of the continent aimed at efficient transit, I believe that the target of boosting intra-Africa trade and doubling intra-Africa trade by the year 2035, that it is possible to reach that target. The reason we signed an MOU with TradeMark East Africa then, as it was called, is because as a secretariat we know what we are good at, what we are less good at. We know what is our capability and what is not within our capability. And so leveraging on the strength, the experience of TradeMark Africa will enable us to achieve our objectives. We see TradeMark Africa as an implementing agency of all of the objectives that are set out in the AFCFTA, transit of goods, customs systems harmonization, as well as trade facilitation. This is where I believe the AFCFTA will reach maximum benefit through this partnership with TradeMark Africa. And of course, as I said earlier, there could not have been a better location for TradeMark Africa in West Africa, a country that has been a leader in the philosophy of Pan-Africanism. I was struck by what the Minister of Finance said a few years ago, that Ghana is not just a country, that Ghana is a philosophy of Pan-Africanism. And so it is entirely fitting that we are launching this initiative here in Ghana, the home of Pan-Africanism. And my leader, the Minister of South Africa, will forgive me. I used to be South African, but I'm Ghanaian today. And that is why we have to focus on this corridor and ensure that it is efficient, competitive, that goods transit, that small, medium enterprises that are trading between Togo and Benin, between Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria, that they see the benefits of the AFCFTA. And I believe it is within reach, as we have seen with the example of the East African community. And so I want to thank you very much, Balozi, for your leadership, and the CEO, and of course the Honorable Minister, for your efforts today. We are sharing a platform for the second time today, and so I really appreciate the energy and the enthusiasm that you bring in your position. I'm not going to say caretaker. I will say in your position as Minister of Trade and Industry of Ghana. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, please make it warm again. We thank you for all the things you call us to do in advancing this aim of one single African market. Today, I'm glad to announce that our hashtags have changed. Our various social media handles have also changed. You can check us out at TradeMark Africa on all channels, YouTube, Facebook, all the channels. And you can also use the hashtag 12 for Africa and hashtag Go Far, Go Together. To this end, it's my pleasure to invite the CEO for the vote of thanks. Welcome, Mr. David Beer.
So we have come to an end. The Secretary General has given us our marching orders to double intra-African trade. I believe it is ambitious but achievable if we work together. It just remains for me to thank guests of honor, His Excellency the Secretary General of the Secretariat, and the Honourable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources and Trade and Industry. Thank you so much for coming and for gracing us with your presence. Asante sana Balozi Mwensha for your leadership of within TradeMark Africa, but also across the continent. I've been struck in our 2 days here in Ghana by how many people have said, I was mentored by Ambassador Mwencha back in the day. There have been countless people who've testified to your leadership. And of course, thank you to everyone here. We know you've given up your Friday evening. We're incredibly grateful. Thank you not only for coming here and sharing this event, but for your partnership with us, because as so many people have said, the only way to realize these ambitions is to do so together and collectively. So many thanks. Please do stay around, enjoy the evening, and let's talk together afterwards. Thank you.
Please stay for a minute, just 1 minute, please.
I'm delighted to have you all here and that you've joined us today for the launch of TradeMark East Africa. I've got to say, this is the fulfillment of a dream for me to be addressing you all today on this happy occasion. TradeMark East Africa is different.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please lend us your attention for 4 minutes as we catalog to you our various milestones achieved. Thank you.
I'm delighted to have you all here and that you've joined us today for the launch of TradeMark East Africa. I've got to say, this is the fulfillment of a dream for me to be addressing you all today on this happy occasion. TradeMark East Africa is different.
I want to take this opportunity to thank TradeMark East Africa and all the development partners who they have worked with, the wonderful work that they have done here, and to say that TradeMark East Africa has been a practical partner.
So the kind of things that I think have been big achievements are the border posts, which have really allowed trade to happen across the region better. The port development work, some of the infrastructure. I think for me, the ICT for Trade portfolio has been really transformational, and particularly thinking about some of the customs systems, the electronic cargo tracking systems, the different SWIFTs we've done have been really amazing. And then I think the work on women in trade has been very significant in moving the dial for, hundreds of thousands of women and households.
Minutes, we've shown what's possible in Africa when we look within and source for internal solutions to internal problems. Let's celebrate TradeMark Africa. I guess all that needs to be said has been said, all that needs to be done has been done. It just calls on us to now dream big and act with some courage, but most importantly, galvanize ourselves into action and endeavor, knowing that some of our efforts may not necessarily yield immediate prosperity. But out of every one that succeed, thanks to the efforts of TradeMark Africa, all the wheels of prosperity will be turning in our favor. One SME, one business, one industry, one economy, and overall, one big single African market altogether. I believe with all my heart that no matter the obstacles, Africa still has a fighting chance, and Africa will prevail and will be prosperous. Certainly, we will not be called the first world. We don't need that. But we are the new world. So welcome to the new world. Welcome to Africa, the largest continental free trade area in the world, powered by TradeMark Africa. And although our face has changed, we are still the same. We are growing Africa's prosperity through trade. My name is Jerry Ajololo. It means God's blessing, and I wish same for all of us in our homeland, Africa. Let's go out there and drink some beer on Mr. David Beer. We'll see you on the poolside.
My name is Ahmed Farah, Country Director. As a country that hosts TradeMark's headquarters, Kenya has been honored to witness firsthand communities prosper through trade, and we're excited to connect to more countries and scale up. My name is Ahmed Farah, Country Director. As a country that hosts TradeMark's headquarters, Kenya has been honored to witness firsthand communities prosper through trade, and we're excited to connect to more countries and scale up.